We now know that we have to reduce carbon emissions, and that if we don't reduce carbon emissions, then the impact is going to be significant on the planet in general, and it's going to impact on some of the most vulnerable ecosystems and some of the most vulnerable people in the world.
All Saints is a town centre church in Wokingham, and we have a building that is getting a bit tired. Originally built medieval times, actually. We've got lovely big chalk pillars from medieval days. There was an archdeaconry day I was at, and Olivia was selling the concept of sustainability and the fact we had these energy audits.
The Diocese of Oxford has teamed up with the Trust for Oxfordshire's Environment and Inspired Efficiency. Together, we're piloting a scheme where churches can apply for discounted energy audits and small grants of £150 towards implementing the audit's practical recommendations. All Saints was visited by Matt Fullwood, an energy expert, as part of a busy day working on the pilot.
So I think he'd managed to squeeze 3 into this little part of Berkshire, which was fine, and we did eventually find a day which suited not just me, but all the other people having energy audits done as well. So not an inconvenience at all. And he sat very quietly and did the sums on the energy bills on his own, and then I walked around the church and the hall with him. So enjoyable thing. You learn quite a lot about energy and how it's used and how it's wasted. So I'm in favour of it. I'd encourage anyone else to do it. He also said, hang on, you've got a church hall as well. We always just sort of rested back on our laurels and thought, well, that's fine. That's building regs. We've got double glazing. We've got the right cavity insulation. But actually, when it came to it, and he'd been round, he said, lighting. And I said, well, yes, we've been thinking about LEDs, but they're terribly expensive because we've got to replace the whole fitting and everything else. And he said, well, I would certainly encourage you to do that. When the report came and I read the end of it, it talked about £150 of budget. They would meet the invoice to that extent. So that was a trigger. That was a very useful trigger that we have now started replacing our church hall lights with LED lamps. It was an easy-to-read report, and we've got it on the web. Nobody's yet read it on the web and said, oh, don't think it's very easy to understand. But if anyone wants to see what an energy audit report looks like, go to allsaintswokingham.org and you can see one there. So it was well worth our time. I hope it was worth the diocese's money, certainly worth our money, but it'd be great to have a little more for more grants.
I think it's really important that we start to look at the whole of our faith through the lens of creation. And when you start to read the Bible with those spectacles on, if you like, of God as creator, of the creation as an infinitely precious gift, it starts to open up new dimensions, new perspectives. You have a different understanding of salvation as well. So theologically, there's a huge amount that can be done by bringing creation and the issues around creation into the centre of our faith.
But the driver behind all this is not just to improve the building and brighten it. It's about turning our church from being just a worship centre with occasional community use to being a hub for the community, opening it up for drop-in purposes, for other meetings here, just to get people used to coming into the church. And also we've got this massive facility just on the edge of the town centre, and people walk past. We've done some footfall surveys. We know we've got people dropping past. So they'll be able to come into a warm, hopefully not too expensively warm building, and see the glory of an old church, and hopefully then pick up the idea, the feeling here. A lot of people walk into it and say, oh, this is a spiritual place. And we want them to pick up that feeling too.
Almighty God, who first inspired the people of Wokingham to start the building of our beautiful church more than 800 years ago, inspire and direct us now to provide a building fit to worship you and serve our community in the 21st century. Amen.